That is a legitimate question. When I say concerns, that's usually one of the first things that pops up. I'm going to do demos with all of these devices just to get them into your hands. You're going to have questions, I promise. Hang on to those as well till we get to our first location. I'm going to give you more hands-on, experience with these as we kind of go through it. So first thing we're going to be using is thermal imaging. So you should be able to see me in there. I'm the orange, red, and yellow guy. That means I'm the hottest thing inside the picture, ladies. So we're going to be looking for what? What do you think? It's interactive, guys, I promise.
Normal images?
Blue images?
Exactly. Blue. Cold spots. We're literally looking for cold spots. So, and those are going to show up black and blue because those are going to be the coldest areas in the frame. Now, with this particular camera, it has a blue dot bouncing around the frame that's giving us the coldest spot in the frame at that particular moment. So again, that's going to help direct your eye when you get your video back tomorrow morning and kind of help show you where the coldest spots are. I can always freeze frame things, and that way we can see the temperature differences and that kind of thing based on the ambient temperature that I have in the sensor of the screen. So again, this is a really cool camera. Does it capture something every night? It doesn't, but we won't capture something unless we're recording. So again, Corey, we're going to go with you on this guy. So you're going to hold that horizontal all night long.
All right.
Yeah, I know. It's so much harder than holding it like a regular cell phone. But we're going to do some starts and stops. I'll give you the cues for when we want to stop it. Only because as great as the hardware is, the software is horrible. So if we record for too long, we'll lose all footage. So I'll give you some starts and stops. And again, I'll show you more about that at our first location. So the only history I have here is really simple. It's a one-liner. This is the same red barn that held horses that delivered milk and eggs to the residents of Charleston. So let's talk about spirit boxes. Everybody wants to ask the same question. You see the TV shows and the movies. Is somebody here? That's what everybody wants to ask, right? If somebody says no, that means somebody's here.
Right.
So we're not going to be asking yes or no questions all night. There's always a way to reword the question. For example, if somebody's here, tell me what color the big red barn is. You ask questions first that you know the answers to. That's why this is the easy spot. Obviously, we're going to be looking and listening for the color red. However, Bill's list isn't always going to have the word red in its vocabulary right away, nor the song lyrics and DJs from Bob, right? Bob and Tish. Or, it's not always going to be ready right away. So the word fire truck, blood, heart, would be acceptable because those things are specifically red. What color is the big red barn? Blood. I'm good with that. However, most of the night, I'm going to require something is going on, including even an EMF reading like what we're getting right now. That thing's going bonkers, by the way, to kind of verify what's going on. For example, if Bill's word list has the word art on it, and Bob, you hear the number 40, neither one of those mean anything by themselves, but put them together, Art Faircloth was number 40 on Big John's team. Does that make sense now, how I have to put these clues together? So, again, it's all about, that's a great start, but let me see what's going to come up out of that.
Connecting the dots.
So, exactly. Always got to connect the dots.
I'm blinking red.
I see that. You're going nuts over there.
Quarterback gets rushed, right?
Yeah.
Rush.
I want to say Big John was a linebacker, if I'm not mistaken.
Still rushing the quarterback. That's all right.
I'm not a football guy. You guys got to explain this stuff to me.
So on this device, I mean, I know it's cycling through stations, so I hear music, I hear static. I mean, when might I hear something? I don't know, because sometimes I'm hearing it stops on a station and somebody's saying something.
Right. So, for example, no matter how silly it is, if somebody hears drop it like it's hot, right? Could mean that where we're standing was a fire. If you asked what happened in this location, because all we need is the word hot. I would want something else to verify that, but at the same token, that would be kind of that first clue. I would love the word fire instead of drop it like it's hot, but sometimes they have to tell us what they can using the conveyed messages of what's available. So again, it's exactly what you just said.
So you're getting the same, you got the same device, right?
It's like trying to find a radio dial.
Yeah.
Yep. It's just literally sweeping through them.
Yeah, you can see it.
Yeah, I mean, it's cycling right through.
Mine's staying at 0 now.
You had a 2.9 earlier, which is good. And I mean, Emily's is still going off pretty crazy, so that's pretty good stuff. As far as your camera, Corey, the couple of things that I'll tell you here, throughout the night, you're going to try to do two things. You're going to try to keep a person in view. Reason being is because we're going to be the warmest thing out here, 97 to 99 degrees. That's going to give us the array of color and much easier vision to be able to see an actual cold spot moving by or taking shape. The second thing you're going to try to do is keep the sky out of view. The only reason and sometimes that's going to be impossible.
Okay.
Now, just because, I mean, it's going to be like if you're shooting over that way, you're going to have to really almost point the camera down in order to keep the sky out. But the reason I ask you to do that is because that blue dot is looking for surfaces to measure. There's no surface in the sky. So again, it's going to default to go to the sky. So again, some places are going to be impossible. Do your best. But again, always keep that camera to your left as far as where the wire is. So that way you can, because I splice all the little videos together. So that way there's one video and otherwise it'll be upside down.
Got
So,
you.
no pressure. I got to give out your phone number. These folks will be calling you.
Right, I'm like, sorry,
No
what the hell
pressure
are
at
you
all.
recording?
We're going to talk about your REM pod at the next location. We're going to walk through here and go to our next stop, so that way we're not sitting here talking about football players.
I see the sky.
Let's deep dive. We're in Charleston. We got a couple hundred years to cover. So,
Only got time to watch.
yeah, have you heard anything from us out of that yet?
No words that I could consider.
Okay. And that's fair. What about you,
I got
Tish?
2.5.
Just that. 2.5. Are you still sweeping? Are those
now
stations
it's back
still
to
moving?
0.
Yeah. Beautiful by the corner, nice and good. They have the whole town to ourselves. So the other thing with yours, Corey, is that people don't like to be filmed. They don't like their cars to be filmed. Obviously, we're going to a space where there's going to be vehicles. You're going to be, if I say active casual, you're basically holding a cell phone.
Got it. So,
People do not like their cars to be
I'll
filmed.
casually be like, hey, turn my whole head to the left. Come up here.
Yeah, we got to wake you guys up a little bit. This
All right.
is ghost hunt. This is supposed to be exciting. All right, welcome to another beautiful spot of Charleston, everybody. You found a new parking lot.
All right.
Written something start. I didn't catch the word in the middle. Written something start.
We can always find out what that is. This button right there. Fit.
Fit. Written fit start.
You just circle it. Again, you don't have to tell me every word that comes up. I'll come to you when I want to see the list, when I'm following up.
Okay.
All right, so welcome to, again, another beautiful space. What is this place? This is what used to be the Pinckney Mansion site. This was home to Charles and Eliza Pinckney. So, first off, Spirit Box teams, I'm not going to be giving you questions like what color is George Washington's white horse, like what we did over there with the red barn, right? You're going to get the answers from your Spirit Boxes. So, Eliza's and Charles' mansion sat in the front of this space, facing East Bay Street. Eliza's garden was lined up with Five Church Restaurant and came all the way across to where we're standing now. And then the servant and slave quarters for the home were in the back of the space. So, and it actually overlapped the median that's already there. So I actually came out here and did measurements on that. I know, sounds stupid, but I got to know my stuff.
Right.
So, who the heck were these people? They had a son named Charles. They had a nephew named Charles. That's 3 different Charleses, right? Eliza's husband Charles, and then the son and the nephew. The son and the nephew were signers of the Constitution for South Carolina. That's a pretty big deal for us, but you guys are all on vacation. Nobody wants to talk about politics, including me. I don't want to. So let's talk about Eliza. Eliza married Charles at a young age according to today's standards, not the colonial times that she came from. So when you ask her how old she was when she got married, it's not going to be like 12 and 14. It'll be today's standards. The reason I bring this up is because Charles was over double her age when they married. So again, these are specific questions that you'll be asking. But anyway, she married him because her father over in England thought he was dying, and he wanted to see all of his children one last time. She didn't think he was dying. So she stayed put, and she got married. Now, this is 1744. There's no such thing as citizenship or marrying for a green card because we're not even a country yet. So she did marry him out of love, but also kind of spiteful against her dad. He did get better, so Eliza was correct, which means Dad starts sending her gifts to this space apologetically. One of those gifts happened to be the plant seeds of indigo. Now, indigo is a plant that makes blue dye that makes our blue jeans blue. Some of you have it on tonight. That's how we still use it. It was already here, so she had to learn from her slaves on how to keep it cultivated in our weird temperatures. It's obviously not hot here all the time. So with that said, she moved into a plantation in Mount Pleasant. He calls her dad and says, the rice plantations are going downhill. We can make a killing with this indigo. So now we have an international businesswoman during colonial times. pretty crazy stuff. That's her business. Let's get into the weird stuff, because that's why you guys are all here, right? The paranormal stuff is supposed to be weird.
Right.
Eliza was the second wife named Eliza from Charles, back to back. Either really smart or really stupid, no matter how you look at it. So, both Elizas have a maiden name that starts with the letter L. That's the only clue that I'll give you. If you want to find out which Eliza we're dealing with, ask her her maiden name. The mansion's not here anymore. You can ask what happened to it, and then what year did that happen. Obviously, it's some kind of tragedy. The year is very specific, just so you know. It's not going to be like a 1900 or 1800. Like, it's going to be very specific. As far as Eliza's children, I told you there's at least one. His name is Charles, right? Signed of the Constitution. There are more. However, tread lightly. You can ask how many children she had and what their names were, and that's about it. The reason being is because there's a tragedy among those children, and if we start poking the bear too much, all activity will stop, including our EMF readings that Emily has. I've seen it dozens of times, so just don't poke the bear. Eliza's death, that's where she gets open. So you can ask her how old she was when she died, what did she die from, where is she buried, and what U.S. president was a pallbearer at her funeral. Now, I will tell you, based on what I know on where all of you are from, because yes, I look at your area codes, Eliza's actually buried pretty close to one of you, like where one of you all live. So take that for what it is. Yeah, I kind of do a little stalking. I know where y'all live, so I kind of do that for marketing purposes. I'm not really a stalker, just so you guys know. But I will kind of give you that clue of where she's buried at. That thing is going crazy. So again, you two can probably just stay put and kind of see what comes up on the word list together, so that way he doesn't have to walk around. But we're going to spend a good 5 to 8 minutes in here, depending on how much activity we're getting and how much you guys are hearing, and actually whatever spikes that you get out of your device. I am already going to record that you have pretty much maxed out in this location, so that's a good deal. So the two of you together can, kind of watch that list and see what will pop up. You guys, that way he doesn't have to walk. Again, we're not going to be going anywhere near vehicles, so I know what's nice is there's not many in here tonight, so don't go in between them, don't go in front of them, that kind of thing. We have plenty of open space to be able to work and see where the spikes are with the EMFs that's going on. I'm going to give you the answers before we leave. No worries, I'm not going to leave you all hanging. So I'll be bouncing around with all of you, just kind of see what's going on with your devices and taking a lot of notes.
Okay.
All right.
So again, this is the only entrance and exit out of here, so be mindful of any vehicles, and then of course be mindful of filming vehicles.
Right.
So let's spread out a little bit. Let's see what we can capture.
Just want us to walk around here.
Walk around, and you need to be looking for that big number. It's going to spike out.
Me, I'm looking for low numbers. I'm getting the 70, 69, 69. That's so low. Low I've seen so far. Shit. It's the coldest spot I've seen so far. 66 degrees. This would have been the entrance. So cool.
Not necessarily. I usually use the 2.5 because that's the second green dot on Emily's device.
Oh.
Hers is way more sensitive. As you can see, it had more, readings before yours. So I kind of use them to either compare or debunk pretty quickly. And you were giving me a kind of like 4.
Anything good yet? No, you should go. Nope, nothing cold. No. First card back.
Anything crazy going on with yours?
Not too much. But the coldest reading I got was like a 68, 65, 68.
Okay.
That was like we're in the corner over there.
Okay. And what's the center crosshair say?
What do you mean here?
I'm looking at about a 78 based on the ground holding the sun's heat today.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I kind of look at like when something actually is occurring, and I got to like figure out what's happening. Is it just a fluctuation of temperature, like what's around us?
Yeah.
You know, that kind of thing. But I have to look at the variances in temperature. So obviously our skin, if it's landing on our skin and it's like 98 degrees and
Right.
something walks by that's 60, that's really not
Yeah,
anything
that-
going on. I would
Gotcha.
probably, you know what I mean?
Okay, yeah.
I have to like really deep dive frame by frame to see what's happening.
Gotcha.
I did capture something. Actually, a little 8-year-old girl captured something for us about 2-3 weeks ago.
Really?
When we were coming out of the Red Barn, we have a person cold as night, like
Really?
just walking right by. I mean, it's plain as day. I mean, I took all the stills.
Yeah.
That was March 14th, so that was just over 2 weeks
Yeah.
ago. And she didn't even know she caught it till I caught it the next day. But I gave it to an 8-year-old little girl, so she had a screen to stare at, and she had a blast with
She
it.
was good.
What's the highest one?
She had
Still the
21
eight.
point something. She had 21 point something.
21. I mean, it's still going up.
So what were some of the questions again we should be asking?
Like, easiest one is what happened to the mansion. Like, if you really want to start off with something. So,
Okay, I just had a 9.1.
and I mean, she's obviously still here. Something is still here, hanging out with you. Like, nothing is influencing that at all.
Seems like it likes this car.
So weird. So weird. What's going on, bro? This is weird that this part of the wall here, this is the coldest area in here.
What's weird, there's only one song that comes in clearly, it's Lean on Me, and then the other word that came in clearly was sacrifice. Everything else is just static. See?
You can kind of, yeah, it's weird. It's weird. 64 degrees here.
The words that stand out to me, the song "Lean on Me,"
Okay.
and then out of all the static, the word "sacrifice" came up.
Sacrifice show up at another spot the other night.
Yep, "Lean on Me" plays clearly, and then "Sacrifice." Everything else is static.
Again, it's not an easy job. So what's nice for you is you're going to get a recording back of things you didn't hear on this one because do you know what I mean? Like you're getting a whole separate recording. So
It's so weird. What the hell is 60 degrees?
This is so right up my alley. I'm gonna be a ghost hunter. Ooh, word showdown just came in.
It's so weird. That's the only cold part. Like everything else, ground-wise, is 77 degrees because the ground's holding some heat. But over there in the corner, the only place is like 67 degrees. It's weird. I don't know. Strange. Yeah, that's awesome. Some of the
I'm
body
brain on
heat
you
here.
guys' parade.
Alright.
Got anything else? Okay. Alright. Start getting you guys some answers because there's a couple of little things that are happening.
Ooh, showdown. Word showdown just popped up.
Okay, I'll write it down.
Tragedy.
Yes. Decomposition of the gravity stick.
Tragedy, showdown.
Showdown, sacrifice, and the
It's
song
all
"Lean
part
on
of
Me."
the aesthetic from the app. Doesn't really
Did you hear anything?
Just the word "sacrifice," "showdown," and the song "Lean on Me." Everything else is static. Just you get any static? Just all static?
Well, I'm getting, intermittent music and whatnot, but I haven't
Yeah.
made out any words really.
Again, it's meant to
Sacrifice
try to
was the
scare
only
you.
thing that came through
That's
the
the whole
static.
point of it.
All the rest is pretty much static.
Sacrifice.
That's weird, right?
So a couple of things are starting to stand out. Nothing is really screaming out at me like we have things going on other than the readings we've gotten out of your device. Yours has been going crazy, like 20 to 25. But this one is a little bit more accurate. So when we have things that go all the way up to 20, I want to give everybody a perspective of what that actually means. Your television set normally runs between 40 to 60 milligauss, like behind it. So if you were to put an EMF meter behind it, it would read about 40 to 60 based on how many electronics you have. Your microwave usually runs about 140 to 160. So, and that's running on high with you standing next to it, just to kind of give you a concept. The highest spike we had was 21. There's nothing underneath us to make that device go off, or yours. Again, they've never done a dig here. So I know a lot about this particular piece of land. I know it sounds weird that I know a lot about a parking lot, but again, I do a lot of research. So I'm very impressed with the teens that we had, the very consistent teen readings that you had of that, and then the spike of 21 was our highest. We did have the word sacrifice pop up. The word decompose also came up on the word list.
And tragedy.
And tragedy. So the decomposition and the tragedy, I'll explain here in a minute. It'll probably all make sense. But I do like to point out a few things before I give you all the answers. I like to show you, you'll see me pull out pictures from time to time so you guys get a better gist of what we're dealing with. This is Eliza Lucas Pinckney. This is the one who planted the indigo. Obviously notice the blue dress signifying the indigo. But the first wife's name was Eliza Lamb Pinckney. So with that, we're looking for Lamb and Lucas as far as the maiden names. Eliza was 22 when she married Charles, who was 45. So numbers 22 and 45 come up here quite a bit. They were only married for 14 years due to Charles's death. Remember, he's obviously older than her, so he died a lot earlier. She did remain a widow, just so you know, so she did marry him out of love. Let's talk about the mansion. This is the only photograph we have of the mansion. This is the damage done by the Great Fire of 1861. This is where you're standing right now.
Wow.
So, again, the number 61, has come up here quite a bit. The word fire shows up here a lot, probably 5 out of 7 nights a week. So again, this is about 70 years after Eliza's death. It was still in the family. Nobody got hurt, to my understanding. But again, it's still what happened to the specific mansion. So, you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay.
I have allergies.
Oh, gotcha. Thought this story made you sad. Everybody talks, all the tour guides anyway, talk about a great fire because Charleston has had dozens of fires. This particular fire, just to kind of give you a gist, this is how big it was. This is obviously the peninsula. We are on the green dot. Like, it went from one peninsula side to the other. Like, this was a giant fire. So, yeah. Again, they were almost lucky to get away with the damage that they did. Again, I don't know what happened to it directly after that, but it is one of those things where it's like, you see the size of the fire, you expect more damage. Let's talk about Eliza's children, because that's where some of the stuff is going to start to make more sense for you. 4 of them total. Obviously Charles, sign of the Constitution. Let's move on to Thomas. He fought in the Battle of Camden, Revolutionary War battle. Was shot in the left leg, and then was captured by the British. Once he was released, he was left on a cane the rest of his days. So again, these are all clues that I look for in the event that Thomas's name pops up. I need something along those lines to kind of verify what's happening. The next tragedy is the one where your other terms are going to start to make sense. Baby George did not make it. We don't know how old exactly infant George was, but his death certificate has the same month and year in the birth and death column. He could have been days old or weeks old.
Yeah.
Here's the interesting thing. George has no grave or a headstone. It's a possibility that they could have mummified the baby and kept him here in the home, decomposing, therefore waiting for his mother to pass so he could be buried with his mom. We're going to talk about Eliza's death here in a minute, and it'll get even weirder. So, Eliza, let's finish the children, because there's 4 total, right? The last one, the only daughter, her name was Harriet. She actually married in Horry. Myrtle Beach is in Horry County. That's where she lived. So you guys just came back from where she lived. Now, it wouldn't have been a 2.5-hour car ride to go see your daughter. Lots of letter writing. If Harriet does show up here, it's usually something wrapped around letter writing that accompanies that to kind of show me. Now, we did get the word written earlier, but I don't have any other clue that shows me that, at least in real time. So I'll have to double verify what's going on with the recording tomorrow morning. Eliza's death. She was 70 years old when she died in 1793. That's a long time for a woman to be living in colonial times. She was going to Philadelphia to get treatments for what they thought she had. Turns out it was breast cancer. We know that now based off of her medical records. They didn't know it then because we didn't even know what breast cancer was in this country. So that's where she died. That's where she's buried. So don't I have a group here from Pennsylvania? Mm-hmm. Yep, thought so. Aren't you on the eastern half? Mm-hmm. Yep, thought so. So with that said, Philadelphia, I want to say she's like 10 plats away from Ben Franklin. So any guesses on what president was the pallbearer at her funeral? 1793. Once, twice. Washington. At his own request.
17, yeah.
Because of what she did for the country with her indigo to help get things started. Not to mention, Washington only had 13 governors. The Pinckneys were always a governor. There was always a governor among the Pinckney family. They were all politicians. So he knew the Pinckneys pretty well. Even when Washington visited Charleston, he met with Eliza in Georgetown on his way in to have breakfast with her first. So, again, pretty big deal with Washington. Disembodied. Again, things trying to scare us. Let's see. Oh, let's talk about George one more time. Baby George. Eliza's buried in Philadelphia. They would have transported that mummified baby from here all the way to Philadelphia by horse and carriage. Now, granted, you can't look up mummified baby and not get a phone call from some kind of government office.
Right.
So I can't prove any of this, but it is one of those speculations that it did occur. So take that for what it's worth. Let's see. I think I covered just about all of them. Oh, I did play a little subliminal trick on you when we got here. I told you I would not give you questions like what color is George Washington's white horse. I do that on purpose to see who's subject to subliminal messaging. You all passed with a fail. Good job.
Right.
So I do that purposely so I know who I'm dealing with. But again, you guys did a nice job with that. So again, I have some things I can dive into. Obviously the readings mean something, so hopefully something's coming through on those recordings and he's just missing out, which is fine. It's not an easy job. You have the hardest job out here. See why she passed it up? here's what's going to happen from here. Go ahead and cut your video, buddy. So hit that circle. You can relax up and down as long as you move the passing through. This is considered a quiet area, so we won't stay here for a long period of time because we're next to a hotel. But I like to point this place out. It kind of really lays out the city of Charleston for you. I mean, it's a weird spot. But when we cross that last crosswalk coming down East Bay Street, that's where the original Charlestown Wall used to be. You're now inside the original city. So this is one of the very first streets we ever had. This is Lodge Alley. So I have the full list of residents of people that lived here. The names I normally get are Benjamin and John. That's the weird thing. When I say people lived here, I'm talking like 4 to 6 people at a time. There isn't a whole lot of people. So Benjamin and John both lived here in 1801. I get their names every 6 to 7 weeks. Just a random little but every 6 to 7 weeks their names come through. Now just a few nights ago, John's name came through, which is John's pretty common even today still, but we got his last name as well, Johnson. So again, 2 different spirit boxes. When I got here, one person said, I heard the name Johnny, and the next person said, I heard Johnson. I'm like, well, there's his full name right there. It's John Johnson. So again, take that for what it's worth. They did do an archaeological dig underneath these bricks. We're going to talk about these bricks here in just a moment. But they did find these people's clothing, their tools, their silverware. They classify them as lower class. It makes sense because across the street on East Bay is where the other part of the wall would have been. The smell of low tide would have been coming through here quite often. The rich are not going to put up with that. Now, if you've been down to the Battery, I don't know if you guys have been down to the Battery yet, where the houses are skinny in the front when they go long back. There's a couple of reasons for that. First off, you were taxed based on how much street side you took. So if you have a skinnier house, that's less taxes. Now, as far as the Pinckneys go that we just came from, their house was broad against the East Bay Street. First off, they're politicians, and Eliza has her indigo money. So, not to mention, they're outside the city walls. They don't care about the taxes. They wanted the bragging rights to show off their house. But as far as the people down at the Battery, they also were that way to keep the smell of low tide from coming through. So basically we have piazzas. That's a porch with a door on it. So the door is shut, it keeps the smell of low tide from coming through, and then you open up your second story window and it brings the cool air over from the water to cool down your house because cold air drops and heat rises. So again, twofold on that. So it makes sense that these people here were lower class. Before people lived here, the Freemasons had a Masonic lodge here, which is why it's called Lodge Alley. Now, just the other night, we got it again. The word Illuminati came up. So, again, why we hear the word Illuminati only in this space, I have no idea. We all had a good laugh, they had a good chuckle, but I normally am the one that catches it the next day, and it's usually within the time frame that I bring the groups here. We do get other terms like Freemason, Mason, and Brick, and those kind of things. Speaking of bricks, here's why I think I'm getting those names every 6 to 7 weeks. You're standing on Belgian blocks. Belgian blocks are made straight from granite. If you're any kind of paranormal enthusiast, you know that limestone usually will stir things up. With limestone, it's because it comes straight from the earth. It is pure. Granite is also pure and straight from the earth. These bricks have been here since 1735. The other... Really? Because this is not a space where I expect to live at all. Just so you know. Like, that's really close. So, I know it's just like...
27, 2.9.
Keep an eye on that. Let me know if there's a little pattern. Because it might be coming from the building if it's that close in range. If it spikes up to like 9 or 10, then we obviously have something going on. But with these Belgian blocks, them being straight from granite, anything that's pure like that stays in the same space. They say it can actually hang on to the consciousness of memories. They call it the stone tape theory, like it's playing the same thing over and over again, whatever happened in this particular location. That's why I think I keep getting the same names over and over and over again. Can I find? That's why I say every 6 to 7 weeks. Now, right now, we're in like that 5 to 6 week range. So again, I can't pinpoint the exact amount of times, the amount of hours, moon phases. I can't figure it out. All I know is it's about every 6 to 7 weeks. And we did get John Johnson on the 1st of April, which was 2 nights ago. So again, very, very interesting space indeed. The next space we're going to go to is another alley. However, I can't take you all the way through it. I've been booted out. You guys have all the blinky lights and noisemakers and that kind of thing, and it is considered residential at the end. So again, we're still going to talk about what happened down that specific alley. You two probably already went down there, Philadelphia Alley, right? So I'm going to tell you Yep, the whole dueling story with Dr. Ladd. We're going to go through that and kind of show you some of the keywords that I normally get out of that particular space. Have you two ever been down there?
No.
Okay, so they still need the story, guys. Sorry. But at any rate, we're going to be cutting through a neighborhood. So once we exit the alley, Corey, you're going to stop the film and you're just going to relax until I position you again. Obviously, you guys can continue listening. And again, the EMF meters, this is not a space where we should be getting anything.
I got it price 3.
Okay, so you're still between like 2.5 and 3.
Yeah, it keeps going between 2.5 and 3.
So we're probably getting something from the building. So just because, again, rhythms like that, especially low rhythms, are going to be, patternistic based on working man-made objects. But definitely continue listening. Just obviously when we stop at Philadelphia Alley, let me know what you guys hear. Kind of see what occurs from there. Like again, we still stir things up just from talking about it. And again, I get stuff from that alley every single night. Like it's almost a guarantee. So we'll kind of see what's going on there. But again, Corey, you're the only one I'll be, obviously saying, all right, go ahead and cut your video once we exit the alley. So let's go ahead and continue on through. It gets a little dark up there. Did you want a flashlight so you guys can see?
Just step by.
No, this one's a bar, so if you could just follow me, you'll be able to see the bar. Okay. Trying to keep
So it's not shining on our eyes.
Oh, was I hitting you in the face with it? Oh, I'm sorry.
Somebody's mad because Dad's shown up about 3 different times.
Really? Hard to hear, isn't it?
4 p.m. I don't know.
Okay.
I didn't hear anybody's name. Is that what I was listening for? Was somebody's name?
Not necessarily. Just whatever you hear at this point. You got any other words that popped up on your end? Just still mad? Still mad.
Yeah, man, I get it.
So in this space, if you want to record the alley behind me, you can.
Okay.
Obviously, just by hanging out by the wall.
Right,
You know, I'll
right.
stay
Yeah,
out of
don't
your way.
be, yeah.
But you're gonna background. It says background. Basically, you're gonna be shooting the background.
Yeah.
So just be kind of inconspicuous. People are gonna be walking by, vehicles, that kind of thing. We're getting into the more touristy type areas. That's probably coming straight from the building. You see how it's steady?
Yeah.
I'm looking for flickering and all kinds of mess. That's coming from something man-made. Yep. So the alley behind me, of course, we're allowed to tour through it about halfway, and it's not fair to other groups of 20 where 10 people are going to try to investigate a very small space with other, sized groups of 20 in there. So again, this is why we come over here now, and again, I'm the guy who got booted out of here. So here's what happened. This used to be called Dueler's Alley. It's called Philadelphia Alley now. We named it Philadelphia Alley because dueling became illegal and stupid, and we had to name it after a city that helped us out of one of our many fires. Philadelphia happened to be one of those cities, so that's why it's named that. But we all tell the story of one specific duel because we can actually prove that it occurred. So there's a doctor that moves down here from Rhode Island. His name is Joseph Brown Ladd. He moves down here because his fiancée Amanda just inherited a bunch of money from her dead parents. She has an attorney helping her out with this cash flow, and the attorney thinks that the doctor is just after Amanda's money. So he tells her, get rid of the doctor. He comes to Charleston to prove that he's not just after her money. The coachman that brought him into town set him up to be robbed and killed. So it wasn't a very good start to his stay in Charleston. So somebody walking by, his name is Ralph Isaacs. I'm going to stop on Ralph for a second because you're ghost hunting. Initials mean something. RI shows up here a lot, but the doctor also came from Rhode Island. So RI could be either way. That's why I always need that secondary clue to figure out who it belongs to. I do get the letter RI here a lot. So he says, dude, you don't want to stay here. He's got a gunman inside. He's going to take all your money. So he's like, I got some friends over at 59 Church Street. You can rent a room from them and all will be well. You'll be safe. So he takes him up on the offer and the two become friends. The doctor's practice starts to take off. Amanda's moving down soon and he's making his own money. He's proving his point. He becomes known as the Whistling Doctor. Every haunted city you will ever go to has a whistler. I guarantee it. So ours is just a doctor. Now, again, it's talking late 1700s. Whistling was a thing. So at that rate, him and Ralph go see plays together, but they can't sit next to each other because the doctor makes more money. He gets better seats. So they talk about these plays on the way home. They go see William III one night, and they start arguing over the new actress that was here. The doctor thought she was fantastic. Ralph, not so much. They start arguing. It gets even more ugly when Ralph starts insulting the doctor's fiance back home in Rhode Island. They go their separate ways. Ralph is from here. He puts an ad in the paper telling the whole city of Charleston what he thinks of the doctor. The ads go back and forth for a little bit, and then it ends up with, let's go to Dueler's Alley, we're going to settle this. So they come down, they take their 20 paces, they turn, the doctor points his gun in the air, and he shoots. He did not want to kill his friend. He just wanted to prove that he had the courage and bravery to show up to the fight, and that he's willing to forgive. However, Ralph has his one bullet, and he puts it in the kneecap on the doctor. So the doctor doesn't die either. His friends pick him up and they carry him home to 59 Church Street, where he dies 10 days later after refusing medical treatment. You have to remember, he's a doctor. He probably tried to heal himself by bleeding it out. So, they say as you walk through this alley, of course, you can hear the whistles. Now, we are outside of the alley. I will tell you, sometime, it was a week ago maybe, I was going through this Spirit Box recording, and the Guns N' Roses song with the whistling in it, I think it's Patience, showed up while we were here. It's whistling in the background. I do not find that coincidence. So again, it is just one of those instances. But they also say you can hear gunshots as you walk down there. I don't have any proof of that. And I also, when you walk down there with your voice recorders, keep in mind everybody around here knows the story. Anybody walking up and down Cumberland or Queen Street on the other side is going to throw a whistle down the alley. I do it every single night on my way back to my garage. We end there, my garage is there. So if my daughter's on the tour, we kind of race to see who's going to throw the whistle first. So again, you can see it's a gorgeous alley, and it is residential at the end. So here's how I got booted out of it. You guys ready for this? So one night, November 26th, 2020, I'm taking my group all the way through there. And these bricks at the other side are older because the alley didn't always come all the way through. So those bricks on the other side are sun-dried bricks from slave children. So we do have a full handprint and fingerprint swipes in those bricks on the other side. I used to show it off to show the history, show how far we've come. Everybody wants to put a spirit box or an EMF meter near it, and I treat that the same way I do a grave. It's disrespectful. That kid's not staring at that brick in the afterlife, right? So it's outside this gentleman's dining room window. He wasn't too happy about us being there in the middle of the night, waving our devices around and gizmos and gadgets. So we come out screaming. I got a phone call on November 28th because the 27th was Thanksgiving. I did not have a tour that night. So the 28th morning, I get a phone call. You got to either reroute or you can only go halfway. Okay, fine. So I decided I'm going to reroute. So I tell my team, I don't know this story up here that well. It's about pirates. I'm a vampire guy. We're going to see what happens. So we get up there, and somebody hears the number 300 on their spirit box. I have no idea what it means. And somebody else hears the name Anne. So I'm like, okay, I know I'm talking about Anne Bonny, a female pirate, but I have no idea what these other terms mean. Anne Bonny's trial for piracy was November 28th, 1720. We were there on the exact 300-year anniversary of her trial. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Now I gotta read all these books about pirates. The rest of the tour is unfortunately about pirates because there's so much going on up there. We're going to do a little bit of myths and legends, around the corner, but we're going to deep dive into Anne Bonny at our last stop just to see what will happen. It is a hit or miss spot, so it's either going to be we're going to have a lot of things going on or we're not going to have much. So again, you guys had a little bit going on with the Pinckney Mansion site, and I'm very honest with you guys. Right now, things are looking really light as far as the activity based in real time. However, I don't know what I'm going to capture in the morning, so we'll kind of see what goes on in the rest of the tour. Not to mention, I'm going to go through it, and most of you are going to go through it at some point and say, oh, I found this. So we'll never know what we actually find. So, any other words pop up that came up on your list? Nothing? They're still
Ring.
Green?
Ring.
Oh, ring.
R-I-N-G.
Somebody want to go ring the guy's doorbell? Apologize for me.
And I heard the word outcast.
Outcast. I wonder if Ralph was an outcast. had friends at the newspaper. Very interesting.
Luck. Luck. Yeah.
So there was a couple of key words that I look for in this, like the number 59 shows up. And we also get the word Rose that shows up here a lot too, because 59 Church Street is actually known as the Thomas Rose House. And it is the only historical house in town with a marker in the front that actually tells a ghost story, and it's the story I just told you. So, you say Outcast, and yours are being documented for me. So, anything on your end? Did you hear anything? He's like, no, it's just static. You gave me a broken radio. That's what you did. All right, let's go see what we can capture around the corner.
So, when this next stop, will we be asking any questions of those persons?
We're going to see what's going to happen next in your box. That'll be where your device was really right now. Go off. We get to a space where nothing should be making it go off.
Will we go down?
No, I cannot take it
Oh,
off.
you can't, I thought we were going that way.
Anywhere near that guy's house.
Watch it. No. But they will pass it.
Stop here, kind of point something out before I have you guys have a seat and see what's going on. But that wall off in the distance of this courtyard, that's the wall to Philadelphia Alley. So there's a gateway in the middle of it. That's what I like to point out. That gateway, in the event there was a loser to a duel, that was a shortcut to get to the cemetery behind me. Remember, the alley didn't go all the way through to Cumberland, so otherwise they'd have to go all the way down to Queen Street and come all the way around to get to St. Philip Cemetery. So, again, a little bit of the way geography changes down here. So, let's have a seat for just a minute. I want you to tell me if you've heard anything, Tish. Have you heard anything at all on the way here? Okay, you can actually probably stop your film for a few minutes, just give it a rest. But yeah, let's have a seat, because this is a weird spot. Alright, this is a crazy whopper of a story. So, this is our last stop. So again, we're going to deep dive like what we did over at the Pinckney Mansion site. This is also a location where you all know how to use your devices by now. So this will pretty much be an open forum. I'll give you a handful of questions that you can use, but otherwise you can ask whatever you want to after we're done here. So we're going to be looking at this building over here with the crosses on it. Those are not crosses, those are earthquake bolts. If you are unfamiliar with earthquake bolts, the gist behind those is that they are turnbuckles. If we have another earthquake like what we did in 1886, you can turn those turnbuckles and it's supposed to straighten the building back up again. It's a great idea, it just doesn't work. The reason I bring these ones up is because these particular earthquake bolts are the first ones we put in Charleston, because this is the oldest government building in South Carolina. This is why we're here. We are here because this building is familiar to our female pirate, because it was from the same time era that she lived here. So, it's kind of like using a toy to try to attract a child ghost. That's why this place is a hit or miss. Now, there's a lot of folks on that tour, huh?
Oh, wow.
Even puppies.
Yep. I had a puppy 2 nights ago. Poor guy had to carry that poor pup most of the night. But anyway, so I told you about the Charlestown walls earlier. That garage is where the Charlestown wall existed. It went up past the powder magazine and then started going south towards the battery behind me. It was locked into the corners of the walls on purpose to protect it. It held gunpowder. So if it does get attacked from a Revolutionary warship or a pirate ship from 3 blocks away at the water, it's going to have a hard time getting through the 32-inch thick walls. Let's say it does, and it goes all the way through and blows up the gunpowder. There's sand in the roof from during its construction, that's supposed to go up with the explosion and then fall to put out the fire of the gunpowder. That's the way it's designed. The sand is still there because it's never been attacked. However, that theory of the sand going up and putting out the fire, that doesn't work either. So we had another powder magazine closer to the battery. It got attacked, sand went up, the building burned to the ground. It no longer exists. This one has just never been attacked. So the last servant for this particular building was the Civil War, and it did serve 7 different wars. So again, it's not like it didn't do its job. It did pretty well. It's a museum now. So this building is small. It took our government 10 years to build it. Does that sound like our government? Not at all. It's 10 years, small building. Our story begins right in the middle of its construction. So 1708, there's a lot of twists. Try to follow me, and there's a lot going on, so I tend to speak very quickly through this. A young lady named Anne Cormack moves here from Ireland with her father and his mistress. The mistress is her mother. Are you guys with me so far? The 3 of them are running away from his wife. How angry was she? Just saying. They land in Georgetown. Dad buys a plantation, and Mom dies pretty quickly. So that makes him forcing Anne to come down here to sell anything from the plantation. This is a familiar space to her. Now, Anne back home in Ireland, they say she was kind of a hardcore badass chick. They say she killed one of her servants when she was like 7 or 9 years old with a knife to the belly. I want you to just kind of keep that mentality in the back of your brain. This chick's hardcore. So we're going to fast forward a little bit. This building's done in 1713. 1715, pirates are coming through town, and Anne is stoked. She falls in love. This guy's name is James Bonney. Now, Dad doesn't approve because he's a filthy pirate. I wouldn't approve either. I got 2 daughters myself. They run away to Jamaica. They get married. Anne Cormack becomes Anne Bonny, the most famous female pirate of the Golden Age. Now, James Bonney is not the Captain Jack Sparrow that she was hoping for. This guy's a privateer. Makes him a spy for the British. He's a coward in her eyes. This is not who she wanted, but she's stuck with him. She's married. A few years later, she falls in love again. This guy's name is John Rackham, a.k.a. Calico Jack, guy number 2, just so I can keep track for you. There's a couple. Now, Calico Jack, we're going to call him Jack through the rest of the story. And as far as that goes, he has his own crew and ship, and Anne wants to be part of it. You can't put a girl on a pirate crew. Girls curse pirate ships. So he makes a deal with her. If you dress like a guy and hide your gender, you can be a female in my quarters and be part of the crew. She's okay with this cross-dressing bit because Dad used to hide her as a boy back home in Ireland to keep her away from his wife. She's a pirate now. Let's go. So let's put 2 and 2 together. Female in his quarters. She's eventually going to get pregnant. You cannot have a pregnant pirate dude on the crew. Somebody's going to figure it out. So he drops her off in Cuba. Go have the baby. These are some friends of mine. They'll help you out. Come back later. We'll figure it out. So she goes and has the baby. She returns with no baby. We have no idea what happened to this kid. She's also dressed like a girl. She doesn't give a damn anymore about hiding her gender. This makes Jack pretty mad. Jack just, captured another pirate crew. They're down below deck. Anne's gonna go flirting, because that's what Anne does. Guy number 3. Guy number 3 turns out to be a female, dressed like a guy, to be part of the pirate crew that Calico Jack just captured. So now we have 2 females dressed like guys on the same pirate ship that is absolutely unheard of. So this young lady's name is Mary Reed. She convinces Mary to become part of the crew with her. They become friends, possibly lovers, we'll never know for sure. And the British find out where they are. They send their entire fleet to come take down one pirate ship. Anne and Mary are the only 2 not drunk enough to come up with their 1-bullet flintlocks trying to, fight off the British fleet. Obviously, they're going to get arrested. As they're going down and getting arrested, she looks at, Jack, her captain, and her bow and says, "You should have fought like a man instead of going down like a dog." So the word dog will show up here. That's obviously a key word. The judge, he wants to see the 2 men that fought back by themselves so valiantly. He's already tried and hung Calico Jack and the drunken sailors that wouldn't come up and fight. Anne and Mary go in front of the judge. They reveal their gender by letting their hair down to show that they're females trying to save themselves. He doesn't care. They're still pirates. He's still going to hang them. "We plead our bellies," was the last thing they said to this judge. Claiming that they're both pregnant. You cannot hang a pregnant woman in 1720. This is the trial I told you about earlier, by the way. So he says, "Fine, we'll delay your hanging." Sends them both back to jail. Dad is still here in Charleston with all of his Irish money. He bails out Anne, brings her back home. She remarries. That's husband number 2, guy number 4. Yes, we're going to count Mary Reed. And has 4 children, dies at the age of 84. I know, very abrupt ending. What happened to Mary Reed, right? So she dies in 1721, a year later in that Jamaican jail from whatever pirates die from in a Jamaican jail. Probably scurvous and bumpy and gross and whatever else you want to come up with. So, couple of things in this space that I left out purposely so you had something to work with, question-wise. The name of Anne Bonny's parents, her father and his mistress. I know those for certain. And the name of Calico Jack's ship. So I know that for certain. There are lots of things that I gave you around all of that, so ask whatever you want to in this particular space. Now, I told you guys at the beginning of this tour that people have passed out. This is one of the locations where it's actually relevant to the story. Back in September, I brought my group back here, just like you guys are standing, and before I get started, the kid next to me goes white as a ghost, and he starts to drop like a wet noodle. Yes, pun intended. I pick him up by his armpit, and I take him over to that brick wall. I send his boyfriend over to go get him a bottle of water. He comes back, he gets his water, he's feeling better. I then tell the story, so they don't know the story yet. I send everybody out to go play with their devices. They pull me aside. Nick, we have to tell you something. What's going on? We are two transgender females, or males, meaning I had two females dressed as males. Sorry, I get that confused every once in a while. So I had two females, just like Anne and Mary, dressed as men on the tour. The minute we entered the space, one of them about passed out, and it was a nice cool night like this. It was September. So again, take that for what it's worth. This is stuff I cannot make up. Again, I can't even get the transgendering piece right.
Still working on that.
I know, right? So again, my daughter, when she's on the tour, the first thing she asks other kids in the tour, are like, "What are your pronouns?" I'm like, "Really? That's a thing?
It
Like,
is.
we're going straight up to the kids now and just, what are your pronouns?"
It's
Like,
just a thing.
I know. But she's 15. I get it. She's growing up in a different world than we are. But we are going to explore this space. This is not a space where we normally get EMF. So again, this is one. It's not going to be the Pinckney Mansion. So if you get something, I'll be excited. The closer you get to the bushes and the corners up there, Deb, the more likely you're going to have something based on the electrical pulse. So I won't be too super excited unless you're a little bit further away. Same thing with your device, Miss Emily. And of course, I'll be watching your word list with you to see what's going on. Corey, if you do want to get some footage of the front of the building, by all means, feel free to explore. Turn it up loud and proud. As far as the front of the building, Corey, if you want to get us some footage, you can. I just ask that you have to exit the lot. Do not interrupt other tours. That's the only thing I'll ask. How all of you just went 3 different directions.
But of course, you're Americans. Those two kings, so this is the most, me personally, what I've seen, most paranormal investigative thing on this tour. Books.
Back and forth. Interesting.
The song Black Hole Sun is playing.
Say Black Hole Sun. Alright. Now I can do it without the group there now. Sure, we'll take a nice slow stroll by it, yeah. Hell cold over here.
So creepy looking in the window.
Yeah, right.
Very creepy. So I was telling him, as soon as I walked over that way, it's really staticky, but the woman radio host, she said Illuminati Mason, just like that. And I couldn't hear anything else she was saying. I was like, that's weird. The two don't necessarily go together, but they do, you know?
Yeah.
But he just said that.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, I love to connect the dots. I wish I could put it all together.
I know, right? I'm curious as to what I would see. Because I was in front of that little building for a little bit. Paused, stopped, took it slow. Not too much. Like in the 50s, like over there. But nothing too crazy. Hey, boo. Baby. Big.
Alright, so I at least, you guys haven't really given me anything. We did have a small 2.2 spike, so that's something significant. We heard the term black hole sun come out of Tish's device. And then you had another one too. Oh, you said
Illuminati Mason.
Yeah, Illuminati Mason. Like,
In that order. Yeah.
that's just so weird. So, and again, unfortunately hers isn't recording, so we're going to have to take her word for it. So I'll obviously be going through your recording in the morning to see if I can even get close to hearing the word Illuminati out of it, especially this far away from Lodge Alley. That would be very interesting. I at least like to show you what Anne Bonny looked like, so that way you guys at least have that good gist of who we're dealing with here, the swashbuckling pirates that we have. So this is one of the few photographs I could find of her where she actually has a shirt on, and like to take her shirt off and bare her breast to show the men she just killed that they were just killed by a woman. So she's,
like
again,
her.
hardcore chick. As far as Calico Jack was named that, like nicknamed that, because of the jackets he wore. They came from the men he killed.
Oh,
So
wow.
that's the only photo I know of Calico Jack that's legit. Of course, it's a woodcut, but again, we'll take it. Somebody did obviously do some coloring to make sure it faded in properly. So Anne Bonny's parents, her father's name was William Cormack, so I'm always looking for William. And then her mother's name was Mary Brennan. Remember, she's a mistress. So Mary and William will normally show up together, as far as like somebody will come straight up to me and say, I heard William and Mary, and it will usually come out of one phrase. And I was like, are you serious? Got them both in the same shot. The name of Calico Jack's ship was called the Kingston. Do I expect Kingston to come through a spirit box and a radio station? I don't. But the word king will suffice here, even on the spirit box word list. So, again, not a whole lot going on here. I'll be honest, this was a pretty light investigation as far as evidence goes, as far as what we caught in real time. Again, I can't make the ghosts do stuff. They're not on the payroll. So, again, it's just a matter of, like, it is what it is until I can go through it in the morning. Do we have a couple of little things for me to lead off of? We do. But again, I'm honest with you. I'm not going to sit here and make stuff up for you guys. I mean, that's not why you're here. That's not why I'm here either. You know, you guys are here to have fun and to learn some new stories and to play with my tools. So that should have been your bare minimum expectation coming in. Did I have a skeptic sitting here, by the way, among you?
No.
No? Pretty much all of you hardcore believers?
I was open-minded. I
There you
wouldn't say I
go.
was a
Yeah,
believer
yeah.
or a disbeliever.
Okay, fair enough.
I was maybe a little bit of a skeptic.
Okay. I figured you were going to be the exact opposite. Like, I took you as almost like the enthusiast, like really into this.
I was kind of expecting you were going to have people jumping out of shadows in cool costumes.
Yeah,
I
we
don't have that kind of payroll either.
right. And looking at the description where it said interactive, I was like, what does that mean?
Well, I'm here getting the tools.
Yeah,
You're doing the
yeah,
work.
yeah, yeah.
So I'm here to help interpret what you guys are finding. But that's the whole reason why it's
Yeah, yeah.
interactive. That's why most people sign up anyway. But again, I'm usually done with your data by noon. So
Okay.
again, I will text you those links. So make sure that you got those links, or the at least a text message from me this morning.
Yep.
So that way you guys can actually get your links. And I'm done by noon. I'm trying to think what else there is. What questions do y'all have for me? You can stop your video.